It's saying I'm live. So, hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to bring on a couple of guests, and I'm going to jump right into it. What we're going to talk about is for the small creator, is social media promotion, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, is it worth it or a waste of time for a small creator? So, with that, the I really don't know if it got my intro there, but we're going to talk tonight with a couple of guests. And I guess I'm just repeating myself. We're going to talk about social media promotion and whether or not it's worth your time for a small creator. And with that, I'm going to bring on my first guest of the evening. This is my brother, Dominic. He runs a YouTube channel called VanDominick Guitar. And I'm actually going to give him a minute to promote his YouTube channel. And I'll pull it up on the screen here. So, Dom, welcome to the stream. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And, go ahead and talk about everything you're working on.
Well, first, thank you. This is a very high-tech setup that you have here. I'm very impressed. So just to take a minute, I have this music YouTube channel where the purpose is for me to make original music, but I'm kind of using YouTube as like a forum to do more because I also like documenting the making of the music. So, the main thing is final product, making songs, doing covers, original songs, but, using the video as kind of a platform to make it more than that, because at the end of the day, there's millions of songs on the internet, right? But there's only one of me. So
that's cool. Yeah. My whole thing is that I decided at some point I was going to start this YouTube channel and, make recipes and do dining reviews, which is what the content kind of veered toward. And my whole thing is that I wouldn't take the time to plan out recipes, record them, edit them. This takes a lot of time, if nobody was going to actually watch this stuff. So I thought it would be interesting to actually, jump into kind of some of the issues with, um, promoting the stuff on social media, because I was saying last week, I don't think that social media platforms are quite what we think they are. Everything's an algorithm now, and even this whole thing was kind of an experiment because I wanted to see, in promoting this stream where I'm bringing on people from, separate audiences than what I usually would have here on the channel, is it something that, disappeared into the abyss? And I suspect that it is. I've shared the link to this a few times, and every time I've shared the link, it kind of disappeared into the abyss. So what's your experience with that? Do you find that happens to you as well with your stuff?
So I think that it depends on what you're doing. I think that number one, I think it's 100% random, but within that, I guess that you can control some parts of it. My problem is that you have to balance, do you want to try to work the algorithm? Do you want to be 100% creative? Like you like so the purpose of what I'm doing is that I'm making all original content, I guess you would call it, right? Like back in the day, we used to call it music, and I guess now I have to call it content. So the problem is that if you don't work to some of those things, then literally the social media sites just won't show it to anybody. So if I'm taking the statistics at face value that they give you, when I post something, the reason why it's frustrating for me is that a lot of the time it's not so much about, oh, I posted this thing and nobody's people didn't like it or whatever. Most of the time it's I posted this thing and literally nobody saw the post.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's annoying.
And the what's even worse about it, and I think that this is how it works on all the platforms, but I'm finding on YouTube especially, if you have something that's successful, it's kind of like the next thing is probably going to be successful. But if you have something that tanks immediately, the next thing is probably going to tank even worse, no matter how good the quality is, or how good you're sharing on social media and stuff. And I think it's down to, it's just random in a lot of cases. What I wanted to talk about was what is your goal as far as your reach? Like what is your ideal audience? And how do you think that leveraging the social media networks can help you actually reach that audience?
So I'm just trying to take advantage of living in the time that I'm living in. So what I'm doing in a way is traditional in the sense that, I grew up in an era where like, people had if you wanted to be a musician, you make a demo tape, right? Like a cassette tape. And then the way that you get it out there is you pass around the tape, or you form a band, you try to play some shows and like, give out the tapes to people, or try to sell demo tapes. What I'm trying to do now is that the only platform that I have is the internet right now, especially during COVID. And then plus, even not during COVID, living in New York City, trying to form a rock band in New York City is, it's almost impossible. So basically, I'm trying to just kind of use whatever I can do to make it kind of like a one-stop shop of like, you're going to have the songs, like the things that I produce, because I record all of my own music. I write all of my own music. I do some cover songs, but again, there's a lot of me in those. So, but the thing is that I also want to put some of me, which is why there's a lot of video and talking, because I think that I'm of the belief that, if people just see me playing a guitar, there's a million people playing a guitar online, right? And if people just, see like, oh, original rock song, okay, there's music all over the place. Like, I think that you connect with people. I think that's the reason why, like, creators and influencers, right? Like, I think that a lot of that stuff that people are doing is either gimmicky or how many one chip challenges do you see? How many whatever? But I think that the way that people kind of grow and like get more people to watch is that I think that you start connecting with the person doing it.
Yeah, I think so. So the one thing I that clicked for me in 2020 is that as much there's just as many people out there looking to connect with a personality as there is just looking for pure content. So one of the things that clicked for me in the middle of the year is that a lot of the content that I was producing that I thought was evergreen really wasn't. And I was putting a lot of kind of um, things that were very in the moment to really kind of show more of my personality, but I was also targeting search. So YouTube, for those of you watching who don't really know much about YouTube, because I don't know much about YouTube, but I'm learning quite a lot. It's not what it looks like, where like you make a video and then people watch it and they comment on it. You actually have different opportunities for people to find that video depending on the algorithms that YouTube uses. So there's obviously the search engine. So that's where you have people specifically typing in for like what they want, like if they want a recipe about green peas, let's say, for example, just off the top of my head. And it'll show them the most relevant results for their search based on the things that they've watched in the past. So that search history is different for every single person who uses YouTube. So how do you use that algorithm to reach more people and more of the audience that you want to come back to watch your videos? So I was producing videos between like 10 and 15 minutes that were recipe videos that were pretty simple recipe videos. I made a 16-minute meatball recipe, and looking at my content strategy now, it's like I could easily have made that a 4 or 5 minute video with just some clever editing, which is kind of more the tact I'm taking now. But at the same time, how much do you trim out where you get to the point where like you're losing the personality, right?
So
So
I think that you're going to do better because you actually take the time to like think about it scientifically, whereas I'm thinking about it very creative, like too creatively, to the point where I'm going to get bored if I start thinking about that. And like, for example, okay, nobody's going to search for my original songs because I'm nobody and they don't know who I am. So nobody's going to be searching for it. But
right.
at the same time, like if I do like a vlog, or if I do like a recording, what I call my guitar diaries, which is like my video diary series of making music and stuff like that. But like if if I want to do one that's 20 minutes, I'm going to do one that's 20 minutes. And if I want to do one that's 3 minutes, because that's what's off the top of my head, I'm going to do it. So I'm working against the grain even more than you probably, because I'm not thinking that scientifically about it.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think there's a problem with that, but I think part of this for the whole growth aspect of it. And I think it also applies to other platforms like your Facebooks and I guess less Facebook and Instagram. I'll get to that in just a second, but more like your Twitter and TikTok, where like there is some artistic license you have to take with the content, but there's also like formulas to reach more people because of the way these algorithms work. Right. So there's definitely a balance there. And I kind of moved away from doing vlog stuff because what I found was that just based on my skill set and how I know how to optimize videos, I can't get a video like that to catch on as well as, like a video like of the chopped cheese, which was probably one of my more successful recipe videos recently. But there's times where like even with with my dining posts, which I think would qualify more as vlogs than evergreen content. Like for example, I had one a few weeks ago where I ate an Italian sub, and that thing like I think is up to like 200-300 hits, which is a lot for a 41-year-old guy who talks to himself basically. But I did one last week on soup dumplings that like I think is limping along and is barely at like 30 or 40 views. So it's just like, and I know that video is better because every time I make a video, I try to make it better than the last one. So it's not really like the editing or whatever. Sometimes
it's definitely not that, because if you go back to when I started the channel, which I was doing the first time I made a vlog, I was holding an iPad like this. And that's my first vlog, was me just looking at an iPad. And my vlogs now, like, again, I call them guitar diaries. Like, if I break the 20 like 20 views, like it's amazing to me. And again, I don't care in the sense of like, it's not sour grapes to me, but I definitely think that, like I'm hoping that just over time, between me doing more, I'm going to start doing live recording sessions more and stuff like that. I'm hoping that I can kind of like people who are into this kind of stuff will start to watch it more. And then my like vlog type stuff, those people will find the vlog type stuff more interesting. Again, right now, as it is, I'm going against the grain in the sense that like nobody's going to be searching for VanDominick guitar diaries about, recording the song from Punch Out, like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So I want to stop for a quick second and just acknowledge some of the people in the chat. And I notice a lot of people have joined in the last few minutes. So if you want to drop a message in the chat, we'll stop every few minutes and do a shout out. We got Brian G in the building. He saying Dom's a badass guitarist, and Brian G also another badass guitarist.
Yeah, Brian G is an amazing musician.
Yeah. We got my friend Roz, who her boyfriend, significant other, the S-Man is a musician. So that's kind of cool that she's in the building listening. We have Bessie Joyce, who said hi, VanDominick. So
hi, how are you?
So yeah, I think we're at a disadvantage, but at the same time, I think that with platforms like YouTube and TikTok, I think that there is potential, and I'm definitely seeing that. And this isn't me like gloating or anything. It's just basically to show progress. I joined YouTube in 2011. Now I wasn't regularly posting. I think maybe I posted 20 videos between 2011 and 2018. I passed 100 followers on December 31st, 2019. Okay. So that's barely like a little over a year ago. And I was at 438 on New Year's Eve this past year. And now I'm already at 575 last I checked. So that to me like is like staggering growth. Like it's like some of the seeds I planted like in older videos are definitely starting to pay off. Now, what I want to talk about next is these other platforms like your Facebook and Twitter, and Facebook and Instagram really are the two that I think are going to fall into this category. But I don't want to get into like the social engineering, like, you know, all the negative crap with the election and how we have other
You don't want to
countries.
get into that? Well,
No,
we should talk about it.
no, it's all right. But like, you know, obviously there's like an evil aspect to it where, you know, we have people trying to, you know, game those systems. But let's talk about it from and this is Brian G just asked the same question from the perspective of pay to play.
No.
So what?
I'm going to jump in and just say, no, I don't like that.
Okay. Well, so that's basically, you know, Facebook moved to that around like 6 or 7 years ago, and Instagram kind of migrated in that direction over the course of the last like 2 or 3 years. So what's your strategy to kind of combat that? Like how are you going to grow on Facebook or Instagram, or is that even in your content strategy?
My strategy is that it's the art of fighting without fighting, right? To quote Bruce Lee. So I don't have a strategy for that because again, I'm going to be stubborn and go against the grain. And the reason why I don't want to pay for a post is because I know for a fact that the people who pay for the post, their posts are going to look like other people's posts. Because the whole thing with the internet is that like to get to a certain level, a lot of the things, not all the time, but a lot of the things they have to look at a certain level or in a certain way or whatever with thumbnails and all this kind of stuff. And I work on that stuff to a degree only because I really want people to see my posts as much as possible. But it's from the standpoint of I want people to see the posts because I'm working on this thing that I love doing and I want to put it out there. And I want, it's more like a performance for me, right? So for me, I'm not going to put the focus or the money into the posting. I guess you can argue, oh, well, that might help because more people might see it. But I want to put all of my money into guitars, guitar strings, more guitars, computers for recording, more better like plugins for recording software. Like that's where I want to put my money and my focus on. So to pay for, posts, I would rather it happen organically rather than being like, hey, like, can you shove this down 1,000 people's throats because I gave you $200 or whatever it is. Yeah. So I don't have any interest in that because again, being stubborn, if you don't care, then I don't care. And, I'll have my brother, my mom, and my dad look at listen to my songs, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. So I was definitely going to get to that where like, sometimes, and one of the things that kind of crushes me is when I'll post something to like Facebook, it doesn't bother me anymore, but like I'll post something to Facebook and the only people who like interact with it are like you, mom and dad. And it's like, all right, well, thanks a lot for supporting me. But,
I don't care about that as much because first of all, there's two ways to look at that. Number one, at least dad is liking the posts. At least that's one. Like, so I like put like a check mark, like that's one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I also give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, just because I post something and people don't interact, like maybe they didn't see it. Most of the time, I'm telling you, especially on Facebook, I think that people just don't see it.
Yeah.
Maybe dad always likes my posts and only dad because over time he liked everything so much that for his feed it comes up like immediately, but maybe other people's feeds it doesn't because it's a stupid algorithm. So I don't know.
I can tell you, like, I have you set as like important or see first or whatever it is. And like, sometimes your posts don't come to my feed until like 3-4 days later. So like, that's one thing. The other thing is I told you earlier that this whole thing was kind of an experiment in that. So I shared the link to this stream earlier and you reshared it. And the next guest I'm going to have on here, probably in about 10 or so minutes, a local chef who I think you guys are going to really enjoy. He shared the same link and he didn't get engagement on it either. And his posts usually get like a decent amount of likes. Like I would say for me, a decent amount is like anything greater than 2.
Yeah, well, that's one more than me. So
yeah. So that's one thing where, I think the algorithms are definitely not working with us there. But I also think that, and this is kind of why I put a lot of eggs into the YouTube basket. And this kind of goes to Brian G's question as well. Another thing that you guys might not know about YouTube, everything is built off of artificial intelligence at this point. There's a whole system that you can like put tags into videos and descriptions into videos. And there used to be ways that you can hack that system so that you could actually get into the search results of like anything, even if the video wasn't about that. But YouTube actually has a very sophisticated AI that that really analyzes the actual video content and what's said in the videos, and that actually is more important for as far as ranking in all those algorithms than what you actually enter as a human, because that could actually manipulate it. That's why if you watch videos, you'll hear people like say things like, "Today we're gonna cook green pea," and they'll say things that don't even sound like English because they're basically trying to put the keywords into the actual language of the video. And that's something that I did in one video, and it was so much work, it was just not worth it to make it sound natural. But the other thing about YouTube is that the number of likes is not actually doesn't correlate with whether or not they're going to promote your video. So I don't know exactly what the likes do in YouTube. I have theories as far as how it works, but really the two things that YouTube wants to see are people clicking on your video and are people watching your video. And it rewards people who get more watch time on their videos, and it deranks people who, you know, if you can't keep a viewer watching, then that kind of is one reason why they won't promote your video. So I know you recently started watching Mr. Beast. I wanted to bring that up for a second here, because I think that's really an important thing. Because
can I interrupt for 1 second and just shout out to Bessie and tell her thanks for the kind words, and yes to her question.
I think she can hear you. So yeah, Mr. Beast, you hear the word Mr. Beast and you kind of, in your head, you kind of get an idea of what you think it is.
Yeah.
Right? Now go tell the audience what it is. Like, what did you find it to be?
So you've been talking about Mr. Beast for like months, and in my head, I literally thought that it was a YouTube channel about a guy who eats, not drinks, who eats protein powder and lifts weights. That's literally what I thought that you were watching. And then I watched it and I was like, in the nicest way possible, I'm going to say this. I was like, this is the like this geek who's like doing this crazy stuff. And I think he's extremely entertaining. He's like a really nice guy. So I don't say geek in a negative way. I'm saying like he's this guy who's like us, like you can tell he plays video games and he's kind of just like dorky. But the good thing, the funny thing about his channel is that he does very like these like what I would consider kind of like stunt YouTube-y type videos, but he does them huge, and he does them to the end. Like he'll go like, I'm gonna, you know, buy out 5 stores, and then it's just like, no, this is a video where he literally buys out 5 stores.
Yeah, the one that really got me that he did was the 4th of July fireworks. He's like, I'm gonna set off this $1 million firework in the thumbnail, and it's like, okay, like that's clickbait. And then you watch it, and it's like, okay, it wasn't clickbait.
No, like I just watched one where he said that he like poured slime inside of his brother's house and destroyed his brother's house, so he bought him a new one. That was like the title of the video, and I watched it, and he literally destroyed his brother's house and bought him a new one.
Yeah,
I was just like, all right, well,
yeah. And you know, I think that's another thing. So like early on, and I haven't really changed a lot of my older videos, just because I want to have that historical record of kind of how things were. I know you changed thumbnails quite a bit, but I kind of was optimizing titles and stuff for like the search engines. And I think that probably was a misstep. And I think it stunted my growth a little bit. Lately, what I've been doing more is trying to title them more of something I would click. Like if I saw it, like, for example, like how to cook chopped cheese, like New York City or something like that. Because that to me is more like written for a human as far as like how it's written. And even my dining posts, like I used to just, you know, I used to do a lot of search engine optimization and research on like keywords the restaurant uses on their website, and things like that, and try to include it in my video. But what I found was that, number one, my videos weren't ranking in Google to match those keywords. But also that people just weren't clicking on it. So I wanted to get more to the point. So now my dining reviews, I'll be like, eating at the best Chinese restaurant, or eating soup dumplings at a Chinese restaurant, something where it's like a lot simpler to understand.
But so what I'm doing is again, this is probably not a good YouTube strategy, but I'm not looking I'm not looking at this as I'm a YouTuber, right? I'm looking at this as I'm creating music. I'm producing my own music. I'm writing it, recording it, and producing it myself. This is all me. So I'm looking at it as, what are the platforms I could use to, again, I see it as performing. Like back at, when I was younger, I would get, me and my friends would go into our, my friend's garage, and we would jam together. People still do that. I don't have the means to do that right now. So this is my space, right? So I try to optimize so that keywords pop up so that people can find my stuff, but it's all because I'm trying to record music. I'm trying to put it out there. And again, since this platform is a video platform, I'm adding in the additional stuff. But in terms of like the search terms and stuff like that, I don't spend all week doing that, because I have to spend all week practicing. Because the other thing is, I have to practice guitar. I can't always just even be recording guitar. So how am I going to spend 4 hours a week doing thumbnails at that rate?
Right.
So,
and that was my thing which clicked. I'm gonna wind down the conversation here so I can bring on the next guest.
oh, okay, that's fine. So
no, it's all right. We'll have you on another time. Yeah, I went to templating everything. So I templated my titles. I templated my thumbnails. After you have some in the bank and you know which ones work and get the clicks and stuff like that, it's a lot easier to, it's a lot easier to engineer it. Now I spend maybe 20 minutes on a thumbnail. I try not to spend too much time. Try to, like you said, I mean, I'm doing recipe videos, so it kind of makes it a little bit difficult to plan that out, shoot that. I'm also shooting around a 4-year-old kid, so it makes it a little more difficult. But we have about a dozen people in the live right now. Is there anything? Let me tell you. I left a link to VanDominick in the links below. Subscribe to him. Any parting words that you want to say to the audience here?
Just if you're listening and you care about like anything that I've said, like I really hope that you go to my channel and you listen to the music that I put up there. It'll say like original music by VanDominick. Like that's stuff that I like actually, the whole purpose of all of this, that's kind of the main goal. And then everything else is kind of extra.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, buddy.
Thanks.
I am going to switch to myself for a second here and do some, calls to action, I guess they call it. Thanks for joining.
Thanks to everyone else, and thank you. And I'll probably talk to you later. So
I'll talk to you a little later.
I'll talk to you later.
So yeah, that was VanDominick. We wanted to talk a little bit about this because we behind the scenes we're trying to reach an audience as much as we possibly can, and it's just like it's a struggle for real, So next I have another guest coming on. We're gonna switch gears a little here. I'm gonna actually go right to the bio that he gave me. This is Zach Berger. He is a private chef and caterer focusing on his passion for food and travel by bringing flavors from regions all over the world while keeping his roots in the Hudson Valley very dear to him. Allow me to bring on my good buddy, Chef Zach Berger. Zach, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. We hear you just fine. So what I'm going to do is actually, I noticed you followed me on Instagram earlier. I'm going to actually pull up. Well, I'm going to let you talk about what you're working on, and I'm going to pull up side by side your Instagram just to show everybody all the amazing stuff you're working on. So Go ahead and give yourself a little shout out what you're doing.
All right. So hey, I'm Zach Berger. I'm a local chef in the area, all throughout the Hudson Valley. I do private dinners, pop-up events, caterings, drop-offs, fun with fire outside, just I love cooking food. One thing that I'm working on right now, starting at the end of February, I'll have a pop-up every Thursday night at Temptation, a new restaurant in Poughkeepsie, New York. That is going to slowly grow due to the pandemic, obviously, but we have very, very awesome high hopes for everything going on with it. And I'm excited to be part of it. I also am booking out throughout the year for private dinners, course local or source locally ingredients. I go to local farms I have relationships with, use locally sourced meats, vegetables, and that's my spiel.
That's awesome, man. So thanks a lot for joining tonight. When you reached out on Facebook, I thought it'd be a perfect thing. So we're connected through Facebook, and I think we found each other through the Upstate Chefs Facebook group.
Right.
And that actually was another thing that I wanted to hit with my brother Don, but we went in so many different tangents. But how important is Facebook and Facebook groups specifically in promoting the work that you're doing? Like, does it actually bring you the business that you're looking for?
Yes and no. So Facebook itself is, I think, only good in my opinion for business in the sake of groups. So yes, in the sake of groups, in the sake of Facebook as a whole, I don't think so. Basically, for me, groups don't necessarily get me work or get me clients in the sense of work, but it connects me with other chefs that I team up with. That does, in retrospect, get me work and allow me to continue working. So it feel for me connecting with Facebook is really, really good, especially connecting with local businesses, other local chefs in the industry, concierge for local Airbnbs and whatnot that I do work with. So group wise, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I noticed. So one of the things that they tell you when you watch videos on growing on YouTube, they're like, you got to promote your links in groups. And to me, that doesn't sound like it's actually very intuitive, because personally, if I'm using Facebook, the last thing I'm going to do is click on a link of somebody I don't know. And what I did early on, and it was probably a mistake, I joined a bunch of groups that had like hundreds of thousands of people that were like recipes, and I would share my links to those things. And I don't know if you were listening earlier, but one of the things I was saying is that YouTube like rewards watch time. So like maybe the people would click on the video, maybe they'd watch 5-10 seconds, then click away. Well, that ends up hurting your performance on YouTube, which means they won't rank your video, they won't push it out to more people. So I think that was another thing that I did that kind of stunted my growth early on. But I kind of landed in a couple of groups where, and this is one thing I wanted to say, I noticed that, like especially in that Upstate Chefs group, it's very collaborative. I noticed a lot of the chefs in the area upstate kind of are passing around ideas, like especially in COVID, it was just like nobody knew what the heck to do. And I saw a lot of like great interaction in that group. So
I absolutely agree. With COVID, I think that social media has changed a lot for the better in a sense, because people are working together and people are really teaming and learning from each other in a way that you didn't really see before, which was more of a competition. Now, I think this with me, I don't necessarily go on and say, hey, I'm a private chef, I do this, come book me. I post my pictures everywhere of my food for what I did that day or that week. And then people tend to ask me like, oh, where do you work? Where do you this? And then I kind of gradually say it, because I want people to also realize I'm just a person too. And that I just want to just explore my passion.
Yep.
So yeah.
Cool. That you mentioned the pictures, and I was scanning through your Instagram today, and I noticed that you get quite a lot of engagement on the pictures on Instagram. Have you found that to be like a viable platform to help you kind of reach a larger audience?
Yeah, that's my platform. I feel like I think with Instagram, I use it more for me personally, I use it as a portfolio to just kind of have people like, oh, where can I see your work? Now most have Instagram, so I tend to do that. I used to have a website, but there wasn't much engagement with it, and I just didn't want to pay for it. So I felt like I'm using Instagram. It has a bio, or it has a whole portfolio of all my pictures that I post. And I've met, honestly, especially since COVID, I've met chefs from all over the world that I've been planning on once things become safe, whether that's 3 months from now or 2 years from now. I've met a lot of chefs that I've been talking to about doing collabs with, whether it's having them do a pop up in New York with me here, and then me going out to the UK with a chef that I met, or a chef in Texas who I'm friends with now, Steve. Um, but so I think that Instagram for me is a beautiful, beautiful platform and really helps engage and connect with people.
That's cool. So when you plan out your content for that, like is it like deliberate in terms of like are you using like professional photography or is it all like iPhone, Android? Do you put a lot into that?
Uh, my girlfriend and daughter get really upset with me because I usually let the food get cold because I'm taking pictures. But I do have a heat lamp in my house, so I try to keep the plates warm.
I got to get that. My family complains about the same thing for the dining reviews that I do. They have to sit and watch me take pictures and get B-roll shots and stuff like that, and it's brutal. But yeah, I hear you on that.
No, absolutely. I got a light box for the holidays, so I've been playing around with that, and that's kind of cool. So like I have a cool little phone. I don't know, it's a Droid, but it takes great pictures, and I usually use that. Very minimal editing to it, but I look at it just like do a little bit of whatever it needs, and I don't really have like a background with photography at all. I just really like taking pictures. And I like food, so I feel like I know what I want it to look like, so I try to mimic that in that sense.
Yeah, I know that was one of the points of contention. So, we've only known each other a few years, but I used to write a blog for about 10 years or so, like 7 years plus a few on and off years. But a lot of people used to kind of get on me for not having more professional photos. And my whole thing was I was the dining reviewer who was showing the everyday experience. So like I wasn't going to like your real top of the line type stuff. I did for a couple, but I brought a photographer with me for that, obviously. But people used to get on me about the quality of the video, and it's like, hey, I'm just showing you kind of what you're gonna get. I'm not here to showcase the food. If I were gonna do that, I'd obviously connect with the restaurant and do it kind of the right way. This is more like I call myself anti Yelp because I don't love Yelp, but
No,
you know,
I don't
the
love Yelp either.
like the everyday Yelp kind of thing, somebody who, is trying to help people figure out whether or not a restaurant experience is worth it. And the pictures that I was taking are get you in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Um, so what would you want to get out of social media that you're not getting right now? Like what is there an audience that you would hope to reach that you can't reach right now because of the limitations of the social media?
Um, yes and no. I think that I am. I've seen recently the clientele that I've been wanting to reach. I've been reaching more. So like maybe a couple months ago, I would have been like, oh, like more local Hudson, because I get a lot of people from the city or even more upstate, but I haven't really been getting local Hudson Valley. But I have at the same time, if that makes sense. More or less have been guests from the city coming upstate, and coming to a state that I work with, or coming to homes a little more upstate from where I am now. But I've recently been more recognized by social media platforms that are directly correlated with Hudson Valley foods, local farms, that I've been working with a lot more now and getting my name out there. So I just kind of want to continue pushing my name out to those local farms that I want to work with. I also, on a side note, I work with teens in the Hudson Valley as a preventative service, with teens at risk of placement. So I work with the family dynamic to keep them in their homes. And I try to do a lot in the community value sense. So I'd like to reach out with my food more towards that. And those are probably the biggest two things. So, like, community based actions and farms and foodies in the Hudson Valley.
Okay. So I don't really know much about the farm presence on social media. Do you find that like when you collaborate with a farm, do you see like a bump in your overall baseline on social media or
Yes,
yeah.
Yes and no. So like for example, there's a couple farms that I've become quite fond of and that I work a lot with, or even just local butchers. Catskill Wagyu and Accord, Full Moon Farm in Gardner, Applewood. I mean Applestone in Stone Ridge. For example, all three of those, what they started following me, I started following them. We built a relationship, and I have gotten followers from them, or I have given them followers. I've noticed, so I do feel like it does have its positives to it for sure.
Cool. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
you're located in the Hudson Valley. You would like Ulster County
Oh
area?
yeah, I'm in Ulster, but I'm right in the middle. I'm like New Paltz Island area,
Okay.
so I'm kind of right in the middle of everywhere. I go up past Hudson towards Ghent. I've gone to Albany. I've gone to Peekskill and Westchester, to the city, Massachusetts, California, all before COVID, obviously. Now I'm doing a lot more COVID safe,
Yeah.
making sure that I'm kind of venting what I do and making sure that I'm tested before my events and doing protocol as far as staying home. And I'm fortunate that I can have a job that I can work from home while doing so. Um, but yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean
it's
that's
all over
kind
the
of,
place.
taking COVID out of the equation. That's actually a pretty um lucrative area just because you can easily get to pretty much anywhere.
Right.
You got New York City, like you said, Massachusetts, Albany. You kind of can hit all those places. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm originally from Middletown in Orange County.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad actually had a deli there. That's kind of where I got all the experience I have, that I showcase on my YouTube channel. My
Okay.
dad had a
Cool.
deli there in Middletown. Since I think they opened in 1986 or 87, and he retired a few years ago. My uncle closed the doors right before Christmas this year. So it's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
I kind of know the Hudson Valley a little. I kind of skipped over a little bit of it, went right from Middletown to Albany, but it's pretty cool to have you so close.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on here. It's fun.
Yeah, no problem.
I,
This is a good conversation. Um,
Absolutely.
was there anything? I'm gonna try to wind it down a little bit because
That's okay.
we're going a little long here. But is there anything else you wanted to promote or say to we have about a dozen people in the audience still
Um,
here?
Yeah, no. So basically, as I was saying before, I have my pop up coming up in the end of February at a restaurant that's opening. It's a bar and lounge called Temptation. I'll be there every Thursday doing I'm going to have a seasonal tapas menu and entrees. So it'll be appetizer salads and then small entrees. They'll be changing every month, and one special every other week. On top of that, trying to book out for the year for small weddings, farm to table dinners, special events, and you can find me on Instagram at foodmasterflex with underscores underneath in between each word, and my Facebook, which is just my name, Zach Berger.
I'll
And
put it in the description after this feed a little
perfect,
bit. Yeah,
cool,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So that's my Zach talks.
All right,
So
man. Well,
I
thanks a lot.
appreciate you guys.
Thanks a lot for joining. We'll have you back on. We'll do something more food central
Oh
next
no,
time
of
we have
course.
you on. All
No,
right.
I appreciate you, man.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot for joining, Zach. I'm gonna remove you from the stream here, and have a great day.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Thanks a lot. So that was a lot of fun, guys. I want to bring more people onto the stream and to talk a little bit about what we got coming up on the channel here. We got a new dining post every Saturday. I got one coming to you Saturday morning. We're this time. What is it this time? I doubled up last week and I can't remember exactly what we got coming. I know I have tacos coming up, and I do not know what the other thing was. Well, mystery dining review Saturday morning. I got a recipe video coming next week. I think next week we're doing green peas part 3. So I mentioned green peas earlier in the stream here. Green peas is my number one recipe on the channel. It's ridiculous how much traffic this thing gets. We're talking about hundreds of views a day. And for me, considering the fact that I could barely get like 100 views in a week on stuff, hundreds of views a day, these are the videos carrying my channel. I did a follow-up peas recipe So the first one was with fresh peas. The second video was with frozen peas. And all we got left to do is canned peas. So that video is coming to you next week. I'm going to do another live next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. We're going to have my buddy Brian G, who's in the chat, come on, and we are going to unbox the Masters of the WWE Universe Wave 4. I got Wave 3. I got them sitting here in the boxes, and we're going to open those. We're going to get Brian's feedback on these figures and see kind of what they remind them of as far as Masters of the Universe figures. So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you can and want to support future streams, I'm going to leave a link to my merch and on Teespring and my ebook on buymeacoffee.com. That'll be down in the links in the description below. I'm going to link to VanDominick Guitar and all of Zach's social media. I'll link to all their social media at the bottom of the description if you want to come back and support them. I can put that stuff on the screen, but I didn't do a good job of preparing ahead. So that'll be the way to do all that. Let's see. What freaking the dining review for Saturday is barbecue. And I got a sandwich that I think might have been bigger than my head. So that's going to be interesting. You're gonna want to come back Saturday morning. I try to drop those dining reviews before 7 a.m. so they'll be there when you wake up in the morning. Other than that, guys, I think I am going to end it there. If you're watching this not in live mode, I will put some links on the screen for you to click on. I'll put dining reviews. I'll put recipes. I'll put a link to subscribe directly to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun tonight, and we'll see you next Thursday, if not before then. Bye.